There we go. Testing, testing, one, two, three, and we're live. Hello there, folks. We just popped on a wee bit early to see if everything's working okay. Saying that, going by, if yesterday's anything to go by, that wouldn't really make any difference because we couldn't get on properly last night. But we ended up with 2 minutes, I think, of work saved by YouTube, though I did 32 minutes worth of talking before I figured out that nobody was there and that we've been cut off. Pardon me. So, fingers crossed everything's a bit better today. And if anybody's out there and you can see me or hear me, would you let me know that everything's okay? Fingers crossed. Let's just get our microphone sorted. There we are. But yeah, apologies to everybody. As I said, we could not get on yesterday. The weather here was atrocious, and the sky was like just grey, static white noise. So I'm wondering if that had anything to do with it. But once we hit 9 o'clock, we'll get rolling here. And I'm just getting organized as always with our notes and stuff like that. Oh la la. But a much nicer day here today. Yeah, as usual. The best laid plans of mice and men oft go awry, don't they? And our car has broken down yesterday. And so we're without a vehicle at the minute. And that's caused us a bit of issues. And it's got me out walking a lot more. But there you go. And there you be, as we would say over here. So let me just get my notes on. There's 9 o'clock, folks. And if anybody's joining us, thank you very much. My name is Doc Sloan. Welcome to my science fiction station here at the Doghouse. And this is chapter 2 of our Children of Dune book club, Children of Dune by Frank Herbert. As I said, normally we would go on a Thursday night at 9 o'clock, and just with whatever happened last night, we could not get on at all. So apologies. I'm hoping that if somebody's there, you could let me know. Maybe somebody give me a wee yes, we can hear you. Just based on last night, as I said, I got a few comments just before, just as the program got going, and then I think basically everybody disappeared. There's Cynthia saying, "Hi, Doc. Hi, all. Yes, I can hear you. Great, Cynthia. Thank you very much." Basically, I think you lost me after 2 minutes and 22 seconds or something like that. But I kept going for 32 minutes before it actually shut me down with no indication whatsoever that the show wasn't going out. So apologies to everybody. Excuse me. I'm just back in with the doggies, but hopefully we'll get through this chapter tonight with our book club. And let me just get organized here a wee bit, because we started actually with a wee email from Cynthia. Let me see if I can just find that very, very quickly, and we'll run through that again. Let's have a wee quick look. This was just, I'll just get this out of the way very quickly, though we read this yesterday. So this was an email from Cynthia just in relation to the discussion that we've been having about different editions of the books and various mistakes and errata, generally saying that the Berkeley Medallion editions, also the Ace Book editions, seem to be the ones that seem to be pretty good anyway. So this is from Cynthia just saying, "Hi Doc, I wanted to follow up on Thursday's discussion of Berkeley Medallion editions of Dune. I checked my own aged editions of the 6 Dune books for publisher info." So that's just to relay this here. So Dune, the Ace books, contains the complete text of the original hardcover edition published by arrangement with Chilton Book Company. That's Chilton 1965, Berkeley edition 1977, and the Ace edition 1987. Pardon me. So this was a discovery. I thought I still had the original copy I read repeatedly in the late 70s. I guess this copy, which is tattered and completely falling apart, was a replacement for a long forgotten first copy. I think I was saying yesterday, something that kind of made me feel a bit better about what's happened to my copies of Dune over the years. Tattered and falling apart is a good description. We have the Dune Messiah Berkeley Medallion book published by Berkeley Publishing Company 1975. Children of Dune Berkeley Medallion book published by Berkeley Publishing Company 1977. Pardon me. Then we go to Berkeley Books for the rest, I think. So God Emperor of Dune is Berkeley Books, contains the complete text of the original hardcover edition published by arrangement with G.P. Putnam Sons, Putnam ed. 1981, Berkeley Trade Paperback 1982, Heretics of Dune from Berkeley Books contains the complete text of the original hardcover edition, published in arrangement with G.P. Putnam's Son, Putnam 1984, Berkeley Trade Paperback 1985, and the Berkeley Mass Market 1986. And then last but not least, Chapter House Dune via Ace Books, which contains the complete text of the original hardcover edition, published in arrangement with G.P. Putnam's Sons, Putnam 1985. The Berkeley Trade Paperback is 1986, and the Ace edition is 1987. So just some comments from Cynthia here are that perhaps these publishing nuances for the US editions have already been unpacked by those who have studied Herbert's letters and papers as he and his agents were working out publishing contracts. I don't know. I have not found a Berkeley Medallion edition for volumes 4 to 6 on sites that have used vintage books for sale, so I assume that this imprint was only used for a short time. The Berkeley Medallion edition may not exist for the first volume. Per the Wikipedia article on the Chilton Company, after many years of publishing business-to-business magazines and automotive manuals, Chilton acquired the trade publisher Greenberg Publisher in 1958. Chilton published the celebrated science fiction novel Dune by Frank Herbert in 1965. So we've got a wee link to this here for anybody who's... Oh, bear with me a wee second. Pardon me. That's the first one there. That's the Chilton. We have another one for Berkeley Books here as well. I'll just paste that in as well. Anybody wants to check this stuff out. There we go. So just also to continue with this, based on the Wikipedia article on Berkeley Books, this company started as an independent publisher in 1955, focusing on sci-fi books. In 1965, they were bought out by G.P. Putnam's Sons. Putnam in turn later bought another company with the Ace label. Now, the parent company is Penguin Random House. This article is incomplete, however, as it does not mention the Berkeley Medallion imprint, nor does it discuss any relationship with Chilton. So that will be the second link that I paste there, the Berkeley one. And then finally, the Berkeley Medallion versions that have stood us well in our recent book club sessions do not indicate any connection to an earlier or original edition on the title pages, whereas the Berkeley Books and Ace Books versions do. What is the original edition? It appears to be the Chilton for the first volume, Putnam for the... I'm not sure at this point. None of the title verso pages I've looked at in the older editions claim to be revised. History continues. When we get into God Emperor, we'll see how the Berkeley Books editions hold up to the Putnam edition and others being read by the members of the book club. I don't know if this note is worth reading out to the group. It is, as these are minor details. Your choice. Just wanted to clarify a couple of things regarding what we know and don't know at this point about the Berkeley Medallion imprint. There we are. So thank you very much, Cynthia, for that email, and stuff like always welcome. Saves me a wee bit of work. I have some stuff that I'm going to look into in relation to that, hopefully. I think I was saying, but I haven't had a chance just to get around to it. But I do have a bibliographical resource here for Frank Herbert, which is these, pardon me, Galactic Central Bibliographies for the Avid Reader, Volume 36. This is Frank Herbert, A Voice from the Desert, a working bibliography by Phil Stevenson Payne. I think we've talked about these before, and I'm pretty certain that they're interesting little things to come across, but I think they're available online these days. But I'll have a little nosy at this and see what else I can find. But it's basically just been in relation to the differences in the texts, and particularly particularly the British editions that I've got here, being riddled with mistakes, and at the same time where we have the Berkeley Medallion editions and the Ace Books editions seem to be pretty good in terms of that. So it was just in relation to, I suppose, the mystery about an original manuscript, this kind of thing. So there we go, folks. Let's see. So yeah, hopefully everything's going okay. And as I said, we don't get dropped again last night. As I said, it was just quite a bizarre one, but I ended up going on for quite some time, talking away and not obeying there. And I think we've got about 2 minutes of the video saved, so we've taken that down. We're just going to do the whole thing again. So there we are. So another wee short chapter to get things going. I really like this chapter. And this is where we really get to meet the twins, I suppose, properly for the first time. And within this chapter, I suppose we start with a riddle, but we get, I suppose, a number of games within this chapter, which I'd like to point out how the twins go about their business, if you see what I mean. And also, I was kind of thinking, again, just little things to note as we go. But sort of references to clothing in particular, I suppose, and later on to the nature of clothing, I suppose, with things like the still suits, but the nature of the second skin, if you like. And in particular, there's a wee paper about this. It's that might be worth. I'm going to sort of bring this out at a later time, actually. But if anybody wants to check this out, there's a paper called the Muad'Dib of Leto II, if you like, Leto Atreides, and I think it's by if I can remember the name. I don't have this handy at the minute. Let me see. Noel Zinder, is it? I believe. Something like that. I must look this up. Actually, I'll tell you what. In fact, hang on. Bear with me a wee second. That's a bit lazy of me. Let's go. We can get this straight away. Bear with me. There we are. Let's see. There we are. Aha, there we go. The article I'm talking about in particular is called The Muad'Dib of Leto II in Herbert's Atreides Saga by, I think it's Marie Noelle Zinder. Let me just jump down to the bibliography here. Yeah, Marie M. Zinder. It's available from, it's in Science Fiction Studies, the journal, volume 22, part 2, pages 232 to 230. Well, I suppose from there onwards, that's where I've quoted from it. Let me just catch that. Sorry, yeah. So M. Zinder, 1995, The Muad'Dib of Leto II and Herbert's Atreides Saga, published in Science Fiction Studies, Volume 22, Part 2, pages 226 to 233 would be the reference for that. So if anybody wants to check that out. This is for my own thing here. Zinder's approach is to examine Leto II's character based on the work of French psychoanalyst Didier Anzou and to apply his ideas of Le Muad'Dib to Herbert's fictional character. Didier's Anzou's theory of Le Muad'Dib, or the skin ego, presents the idea of a relationship between the skin of a human as a kind of physical envelope for the body and a psychic skin which functions in a similar manner in relationship to the ego. So it's something we're going to dig out later on, but I just thought I'd point that out for you, if you like. But yeah, just in terms of as we hit this chapter, maybe just pay attention to, I suppose, clothing is a thing that I've sort of noted. I'd like to see how that's developed. And we've also got a few things in this chapter that are carried on from the previous chapter, particularly in relation to the term abomination. We're going to see the twins thinking, I suppose, echo a little bit of Stilgar's thinking from the previous chapter. So there's Babs saying, "Evening, Doc. Howdy, y'all. Howdy, Cynthia." And everybody say, "Hi, Babs. Hi, Babs. How you doing? Thanks very much for joining us. Apologies for last night." I said, hopefully everything seems to be going okay tonight. Fingers crossed, you know. So let's have a wee look at our chapter. We're going to start off with a riddle, Riddles of Arrakis by Hark al-Ada, which is, I suppose, the historian alias for Farad'n, as we'll find out later on. So this comes in the form of a challenge and a response. And here, this is for our starting epigraph number 2, if you like. So challenge, have you seen the preacher? Response, I have seen a sandworm. Challenge, what about that sandworm? Response, it gives us the air we breathe. Challenge, then why do we destroy its land? Response, because Shai Hulud, sandworm deified, orders it. Riddles of Arrakis by Hark al-Ada. Excuse me. So right off, we've got this a riddle to be solved, I suppose. I wonder what the answer to it is. Essentially, we've got the preacher, this mysterious character of the preacher, the sandworm itself, which we're told in its deified form is Shai-Hulud, and the relationship between the sandworm, the land, and the very air that the Fremen breathe, if you like. Pardon me, because it's the sandworm that generates oxygen. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but there's been some sort of scientific discovery on the deep down in the ocean, if you like. Is it some kind of, what are they calling it? Is it dark oxygen or something like that? Which is seeing oxygen produced in a way that we hadn't thought before. That's kind of interesting. There's a comment. I'm trying to remember who it's from. And again, I think it's in one of my PhD videos, but it's about it's somebody discussing that the verisimilitude of Dune breaks down when we start having to think about giant worms farting oxygen. And that's exactly what we've got here, by the way. What about that sandworm, eh? It gives us the air we breathe. So we have, I suppose, the preacher, sandworms, the air we breathe, destroying the land, and Shai-Hulud orders it. And I've made a wee note here that within this riddle, is this possibly another kind of psychological projection that we saw, I suppose, in the previous chapter, only this time using a deity? Why are we destroying, the land that Shai-Hulud lives in? It's because Shai-Hulud orders it. It's because our God wishes it, and it's an interesting thing. So here we get going. Let's just get the books and I'll get some fluids here, folks. I'm pleased to say, by the way, I think this is the first chapter we've hit in a while. I might be wrong, where I haven't found any spelling mistakes, punctuation mistakes, or misprints, which is nice. So there we go. So let me see. Now, I suppose we have a reasonably dialogue-heavy chapter here. And we've got some good interactions. We see, I suppose, the twins interacting with a Fremen, and then we see them interacting with Alia. And I suppose we get to see how they think and how they operate. And I think part of this chapter also, one, we start to get to know the twins and how they behave, but two, we start to get to see the differences between them, I suppose. And in part, we get to wonder about the nature of who they are through the nature, I suppose, the already known existing nature of Alia, and some of the questions that, as I said, have been raised in the previous chapter by Stilgar about Abomination. I think we're going to get more of the same in this chapter, So, as was the Fremen custom, the Atreides twins arose an hour before dawn. They yawned and stretched in secret unison in their adjoining chambers, feeling the activity of the cave-worn around them. So straight off, there's this quality. They're twins, but they do the same, even though they're in different rooms. They're yawning, they're stretching. These actions that they do in the morning are the same. They act in unison. They act as one. They could hear attendants in the antechamber preparing breakfast, a simple gruel with dates and nuts, blended in liquid skimmed from partially fermented spice. So that there's spices in their diet. As we know, there were glow globes in the antechamber, and a soft yellow light entered through the open archways of the bedchambers. The twins dressed swiftly in the soft light, each hearing the other nearby. As they'd agreed, they donned still suits against the desert's parching winds. So presently, the royal pair met in the antechamber, noting the sudden stillness of the attendants. Leto, it was observed, wore a black-edged tan cape over his stillsuit's grey slickness. His sister wore a green cape. The neck of each cape was held by a clasp in the form of an Atreides hawk, gold with red jewels for eyes. So I suppose we have the typical Fremen outfit, if you like, the stillsuit. And again, I suppose we're having a wee chat about, as we go, maybe paying attention to clothing and things like that, but particularly thinking of the still suit as a second skin, if you like, is going to be kind of interesting. Still suit's grey slickness, almost as if it seems new. And of course, they have these capes, different, I suppose, different colours for the two of them. And this particular, the symbol of the Atreides, this hawk, gold with red jewels for eyes. So very much their accoutrements, if you like, their sartorial choices representing, I suppose, fully both the Fremen and the Atreides, if you like. And we're going to see that this is part of some of these things are parts of games, if you like, that they're going to play, and they're subtle things, these games. So seeing this finery, we're told Hera, who was one of Stilgar's wives, said, "I see you have dressed to honor your grandmother." Leto picked up his breakfast bowl before looking at Hera's dark and wind-creased face. He shook his head then. "How do you know it's not ourselves we honor?" Hera met his taunting stare without flinching, and said, "My eyes are just as blue as yours." Ghanima laughed aloud. Hera was always an adept of the Fremen challenge game. In one sentence she had said, "Don't taunt me, boy. You may be royalty, but we both bear the stigma of melange addiction. Eyes without whites. What Fremen needs more finery or more honour than that?" I thought that's quite an interesting little exchange. And already we're told that this is part of a game called the Fremen Challenge game. And again, it seems to be a game based on sophisticated wordplay, if you like, a bit of cheeky banter, if you, for want of a better term. But it seems that Hera, "I see you've dressed to honor your grandmother." It seems that Leto kind of flips this, and "How do you know it's not to honor ourselves?" is this kind of thing. And that he, again, we're told he has a taunting stare. He's sort of goading her a bit, if you like. But the response is, "My eyes are just as blue as yours. It's that kind of, my blood's just as red as yours," this kind of thing, if you like. Which Ghanima finds funny. And we get a bit of a translation here through I suppose, Ghanima's thoughts, or through our third person or omniscient narrator. But as much as Hera says, "My eyes are just as blue as you," the translator, if you like, is, "Don't taunt me, boy. You may be royalty without whites. What Fremen needs more finery or more honour than that?" And it's a very interesting comment, isn't it? That again, just we're both addicted to this drug, and we both bear the mark of this addiction, the stigma, if you like. And I'm wondering about, again, is it a stigma not within the Fremen themselves, but certainly possibly with it in the greater part of the Imperium, if you like. But to the Fremen, this is a sign of finery, if you like. Eyes without whites. What Fremen needs more finery or more honour than that? And that the stigma of this melange addiction is a badge of honour to them, if you like, a symbol of finery and honour. More than the clothes can say, I suppose, I think. And again, that's a little taunt in that back, that we're all just the same if we live on this planet. And Leto smiled, shook his head ruefully, because of course she's right, isn't she? "Hurrah, my love, if you were but younger and already Stilgar's, I'd make you my own." So again, this 9-year-old sort of playing around with Hera in terms of joking about marriage, etc. And Hera accepted the small victory easily, signaling the other attendants to continue preparing the chambers for this day's important activities. So it's a bit of a touche moment for Hera with this verbal jesting, I think, and Leto gives her the victory, if you like, and she takes it for what it is, a small victory. "Eat your breakfast," she said. "You'll need the energy today." "Then you agree that we're not too fine for our grandmother?" Ghanima asked, speaking around a mouthful of gruel. So I like some of the writing straight off in this chapter. By the way, it's there have been some good sort of poetic devices, if you like, from Frank. some nice alliteration and stuff like that. But the characters here, I think, as he's starting to build them up, if you like, as much as we have these two 9-year-old twins, who are going to seem incredibly intelligent and dangerous to us, at the same time, they're still top. They're still munching their breakfast, talking with their mouths full, just like any young kids, I suppose. That's kind of funny, I think, if you put our imagination to work here. When you agree, and the suggestion is that they're not overdressed, if you like. That you agree that we're not too fine for our grandmother. Ghanima speaking around a mouthful of gruel. I think it's interesting that they're eating gruel, by the way. I wonder what that says about them. Well, it seems quite nice, I think. Sometimes like just porridge with fruit and nuts in it. But gruel, gruel, the word gruel sort of throws up other kind of depictions of food, I suppose, in our mind, But Hera's response here is really good here. Don't fear her, Gani. And Leto gulped a mouthful of gruel, sent a probing stare at Hera. The woman was infernally folkwise, seeing through the game of finery so quickly. So again, there's some kind of game going on here. And it's the game of finery. And I think that's the question is, what is the game of finery, if you like? And I think it is a suggestion of maybe showing one's wealth and power and status, but without doing it in an overt and garish manner, if you like. The twins' choice to display within their clothing, in terms of wealth, it's a still suit, a cape, and an Atreides pin. I think it says more about their allegiances than anything else, I think. And a hint of practicality, I suppose, too. And also maybe with the still suit as a hint towards tradition. But Hera says, don't fear her, Gani. Hera said. And Leto gulped a mouthful of gruel, sent a probing stare at Hera. The woman was infernally folkwise, devilishly folkwise, seeing through the game of finery so quickly. Will she believe we fear her? Leto asked. Like as not, Hera said. So a 50-50 chance, if you like. Could go either way. She was our reverend mother, remember? I know her ways. And I suppose, I think this is the the thing, the word remember here in relation to these twins. And I suppose that Hera has probably been through this as well with her relationship with Alia. But the word remember, obviously, is that these kids are 9 years of age and they have not seen their grandmother. So this is about remembering from other memory, if you like. It's a different type of meaning. She was our reverend mother, remember. And it's do you remember one that she was our reverend mother once upon a time in history? And I suppose the question that goes to is, do you also remember that as well because of her memories? So Ghanima asked the interesting question here again. As I was saying, we kind of need to start little things to pay attention to. But clothing in particular in this chapter, I think, and as we go through the book, is going to be kind of interesting. How was Alia dressed is the question that she's asked. Hera says, I've not seen her. Hera spoke shortly and turning away. So a little bit of subtext there, perhaps, that Hera's maybe not too happy with Alia, but she hasn't seen her. Leto and Ghanima exchanged the look of shared secrets. And again, this language with these two. Prior to this, we've had... we talked about their acting in secret unison. Wasn't that right? Let me see, just quickly checking. Yes, indeed, they yawned and stretched in secret unison. Sorry, bear with me again. Yes, secrets, I suppose, is one of the words that we can attach to Leto and Ghanima within this chapter as well. So Leto and Ghanima exchanged the look of shared secrets, bent quickly to their breakfasts, Presently, they went out into the great central passage. So we've got a change of scenery here, if you like, a change of location. Um, and what we get is the twins on their own for a little bit here, where we get a little bit of insight into them, I think. Yeah. There's something saying Leto knows that fear can be worn as a cloak. It can be a disguise or weapon on its own. Yes. Um, hmm, yeah. I think how the two of them go. I think it's quite interesting how these two work together here, in terms of what emotions and what things that they're using. Um, Particularly the way they go at Alia. I think it's very interesting, and yeah, I'm still trying to figure these two out again after quite some time. So here we go. This is the two of them on their own. Ghanima spoke in one of the ancient languages they shared in genetic memory. So today we have a grandmother. It bothers Alia greatly, Leto said. Who likes to give up such authority? Ghanima said. Leto laughed softly, an oddly adult sound from flesh so young. It's more than that. Now, I've made a wee note just in terms of stewards and things like that. Alia being a regent, if you like, steward of the planet for the twins. I've just made a wee note to say here, see Denethor in Lord of the Rings, as it would be a similar kind of character, if you like, regent who doesn't want to give up his authority. So Ghanima, here we go. Will her mother's eyes observe what we have observed? And why not? Leto asked. So the question, I suppose, is what have they observed? Pardon me, excuse me. Yes, that could be what Alia fears. Pardon me. So I suppose the questions that we're getting in this chapter are what bothers Alia. If you like, it bothers Alia greatly. What's bothering Alia greatly? What does she fear, if you like? And again, we've got some time that's passed since the last time that we saw Alia within, I suppose, Dune Messiah. And arguably her mental state wasn't that great at that point, Babs is saying, I've often thought of Ghanima and Leto being two sides of the one character. Yes, indeed. I suppose we're going to hit this running with it, the fact that there's a Janus aspect. And as much as we can look at, for example, Paul and Jessica that way, Leto and Jessica, that's Leto the first, and then Paul and Alia that way. There's kind of separations of time and as opposed experience. So this is the first kind of time we've got, as we say, as we can put it, the two heads to the one Janus, if you like, the two sides of the coin, as you put it, Babs. Where they're kind of a shared experience, shared age, shared experience, if you like, in terms of, well, I suppose we want to find out in terms of how they're born, in terms of undergoing things like the spice orgy, this kind of thing. And yeah, I it's very interesting how we look at them in this, and to act in unison, if you like. And we did get a wee bit of a sense of that with Paul and Alia to a degree in Dune Messiah. But I think as the book that that they almost that particularly I think it was with Alia more in a sense that the idea that they would act in unison, but there were slight differences, and that those differences started to become a bit of a bridge between them, if you like. But there's almost it's particularly the way Ghanima goes about her business, I think, and this is interesting, and it's the way that she takes the lead, I think, that Leto backs her up. Yeah, that would be, Ghanima saying yes, that would be what Alia fears. They're trying to figure this out. So I've just put down what is it that my little question here, does Alia fear? Is it one? Is it Jessica? Is it the preacher? Is it the twins? Is it becoming an abomination itself? We've got a little list of things, if you see what I mean. And Leto says here, so who knows Abomination better than Abomination? Leto asked. We could be wrong, Ghanima said. And so I've written, the word I've written next to that is doubt. And then immediately after that, we've got Leto going, but we're not. And that's certainty. And that's kind of almost how I'd categorize how they talk in this. that Ghanima seems doubtful of certain things, Leto seems certain of them. Yet when it comes to acting, if you see what I mean, Ghanima is more the foot forward one, if you like, and Leto backs her up. And I think Ghanima is more shifty in this, if you like, than Leto is, more deceptive. They certainly come across, well, to me, they come across as being master manipulators in this chapter. That's interesting. So Leto says, but we're not, so we could be wrong, Ghanima said, but we're not. And this is to do with, I suppose, Alia. Alia is Alia an abomination. And he quoted from the Bene Gesserit Azhar book. So Azhar is an Arabic word meaning shining, bright, radiant, luminous, clear, etc. And I've made a little note here for see chapter 1, note 21. So I'll chat about that in a wee second. So here's the quotation from Leto from the Bene Gesserit Azhar book. It is with reason and terrible experience that we call the preborn abomination. For who knows what lost and damned persona out of our evil past may take over the living flesh. So I've written underneath this, this is a reason. So it says it's with reason and terrible experience that we call the preborn abomination, but it gives no examples from experience. Ladies, behave. Oops. Sorry, folks, there's the girls barking. Lost and damned, I've made a wee note here, are both terms of religious language. And I've written next that, therefore, this must have the veneer, if you like, of the Bene Gesserit, but not the truth per se. If this was a proper report from the Bene Gesserit on what is an abomination, I think that they would have cut out the nonsense, if you like, and ditched the religious language if it was for themselves. But we're told there's a reason for it, and it's to do with terrible experience. So something really bad has happened. But as to what that is, we're not told. Though Ghanima says this, I know the history of it, Ghanima said. But if that's true, why don't we suffer from this inner assault? Now, just quickly, I've made a wee note there to say see chapter 1, note 21. So just that this was the same sort of questions that Stilgar was asking in the previous chapter. And just to read you that bit out, just quickly, many times and many nights has Stilgar found his mind circling this difference shared by the twins and their aunt. Many times had he awakened from sleep in the twins' bedchambers with his dreams unfinished. Now his doubts came to focus. Failure to make a decision was in itself a decision. He knew this. These twins and their aunt had awakened in the womb, knowing all of the memories passed on to them by their ancestors. Spice addiction had done this. Spice addiction of the mothers, the Lady Jessica and Chani. The Lady Jessica had born a son, Muad'Dib, before her addiction. Alia had come after the addiction. That was clear in retrospect. The countless generations of selective breeding directed by the Bene Gesserit had achieved Muad'Dib, but nowhere in the Sisterhood's plans had they allowed for melange. Oh, they knew about the possibility, but they feared it and called it abomination. That was the most dismaying fact, and it's just this wee bit here. They must possess reasons for such a judgment. And if they said Alia was an abomination, then that must apply equally to the twins, because Chani too had been addicted, her body saturated with spice, and her genes had somehow complemented those of Muad'Dib. So that's just echoing. It was, there must be a reason. We've just been told it is with reason and the terrible experience, but we don't quite know. And so we get this same speculation here, I think, So they said, the history of abomination in the Bene Gesserit must have been from female ancestors, since Paul was supposedly the first as the Kwisatz Haderach to be access to the male line. I can't see that next word. They do fear. Is it they do fear evil women? Is that it? Sorry, it's always that. Oh, hang on. It's the Bene Gesserit fear evil women. Sorry, Cynthia. So when I'm reading the comments, there's a heart down here, and it always covers up the bottom right. There, yeah. It must be. I totally agree with that. And they've had some sort of somebody's come to the fore, taken over somebody, and caused real havoc. But if there's such obvious examples to be shared or warnings to be given, it would be nice to know what they were. Excuse me. And Babs is saying, Paul foresaw Ghani, but not Leto. We're not told of Ghani having prescience like Paul's, and Leto surpassed Paul. I'm sure there's more ways where the two differ in ways which will complement each other. Well, I think that particularly the differences in the two are subtle here. And they certainly do complement each other. They work together. But it is interesting, the whole Leto, Ghanima having been foreseen, Leto being the one that wasn't seen, if you like. I came out of this chapter thinking Ghanima was the more forceful of the two, if you like, the more deceptive, if you see. And I'm not too sure why, but I think it's the manipulation of Alia. To be honest with you, it seems to be done quite easily here. But Ghanima knows the history of it, whatever it is that we're talking about. And again, she's probably has all these memories of the Bene Gesserit, etc., and all sorts of female ancestors. So I'd written, and she says, but if that's true, why don't we suffer from this inner assault? So what's the difference? Why aren't we suffering the same way Alia is? Why haven't we succumbed to this? I put down that's a good question for us, the reader. I was going with puberty, or not yet having reached adulthood. Haven't taken a melange overdose, though they've taken strong levels of melange, I think. As we see, fermented melange is part of their breakfast, in the water of life, etc. So it's what are the differences? I suppose the answer, we'll get the answer at the end of the book, I suppose, is an interesting one, So Leto says, perhaps our parents stand guard within us. Excuse me. So that's and that's parents plural. So that's the suggestion that both Leto and Ghanima have male and female other memory. If Paul Atreides and Chani are there within their memory, guarding them, if you like, protecting them from this horde of memories. What was it? Somebody was saying there. Somebody was saying about the Bene Gesserit must have been from female ancestors. The Bene Gesserit kind of have a means of dealing with other memory, don't they? It's where they can put together like a small group. Is it Simuflu? It's been a while since I've read that. But yeah, that is interesting. And again, it's something probably we're going to have to speculate on. It's quite it's a bit of a tease where Frank's letting us know that Ghanima knows. But again, that's just giving us a bit of mystery and helping to build some tension here, I think, as usual. So perhaps our parents stand guard within us. Leto said. Ghanima responds with, well then, why not guardians for as Alia as well? And so we get we're always working through the process of what's going on, who's an abomination and why, and what makes one person an abomination, someone else perhaps not, if you see what I mean. So Leto says this, I don't know. It could be one of her parents remains among the living. It could be simply that we are still young and strong. Perhaps when we're older and more cynical. And Ghanima says, we must take great care with this grandmother. Ghanima said. Now, just what the little bit that Leto says there before we go any further, it could be that one of her parents remains among the living. That would be Jessica. Could that be the reason? I suppose maybe a bit of a spoiler alert for folks, but if you don't want to know, cover your ears for a wee moment or two. But of course, that reason actually also applies to Leto and Ghanima. One of their parents is also still alive. So Ghanima says, we must take great care with this grandmother, Ghanima said, and not discuss this preacher who wanders our planet speaking heresy. So again, from our riddle, if you like, at the beginning, we have the preacher being set up there, mentioned. Who is this preacher that wanders the planet speaking heresy? And of course, here we go. The mystery. Ghanima says, "You don't really think he's our father?" And Leto says, "I make no judgment on it, but Alia fears him." So this is Alia fears the preacher. And I suppose straight off the bat, the mystery of it is that, quite interestingly, how Frank does this stuff. Many an author would hide up some of these details and stuff, and he's throwing us out some obvious clues here, if you like. Again, helping to build up a little bit of the foreshadowing, I think, that the reader will get as you read these Dune books, But Leto says, "I make no judgment on it, but Alia fears him." So especially with all of these kids' abilities and stuff like that, it's an interesting thing for them to say. And therefore we have to consider that the preacher is Paul Atreides, and that Alia is afraid of him, and that this person is speaking heresy. Ghanima shook her head sharply. "I don't believe this abomination nonsense." So again, we have this doubt from her. And Leto's response, doubt and disbelief, if you like. Leto's response is, "You've just as many memories as I have," Leto said. "You can believe what you want to believe." Pardon me. "You think it's because we haven't dared the spice trance, and Alia has," Ghanima said. This is I've written next, that's a statement, not a question. "So you think it's because we haven't dared the spice trance and Alia has," Ghanima said. Leto back, "That's exactly what I think." I have silence. They fell silent, moving out into the flow of people in the central passage. So this little bit of discussion between them, what's going on with Alia, possible reasons why she is Abomination and they are not, and I suppose some of the questions that they're running through, if you like, we can answer them ourselves, if you like, from what we know. But again, the suggestion is, why haven't we? It's because of the spice trance, if you like. They haven't done it. Of course, the thing with Stilgar wondering about the twins had gone beyond their father in the previous chapter. But his discussion on that in the previous chapter, spice addiction had done this, spice addiction of the mothers, etc. The births, I suppose, before and after addiction. So we get the kids basically are moving out into the passage. This is where it starts to get busy, if you like. So we've had this brief little discussion between the two where they've been on their own. And we're told it was cool in Siege Tamar, but the still suits were warm, and the twins kept their condenser hoods thrown back from their red hair. Their faces betrayed the stamp of shared genes. Generous mouths, widely set eyes of spice addict, blue on blue. Let me just check that I read that out correctly. 37. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's okay. Let me just see it. Their faces betrayed the stamp of shared genes, generous mouths, widely set eyes of spice addict blue. Leto was the first to note the approach of their aunt Alia. So here she comes. And here she comes. Obviously, there's the next sentence says, "Here she comes now." Here she comes now, he said, shifting to Atreides' battle language as a warning. So they've been speaking in some ancient language, I suppose, and then they've shifted over to Atreides' battle language here. And there might be a bit of a problem with this in a minute, but we'll see. So in comes Alia, and basically Ghanima nodded to her aunt as Alia stopped in front of them and said, "A spoil of war greets her illustrious relative." Using the same Chakopsa language, Ghanima emphasized the meaning of her own name, spoil of war. So the Atreides battle language, Chakopsa. I thought they were two different things. Bear with me a wee second. Or maybe it's just that that's her name is a Chakopsa name. Apart from the ancient Italian collection of languages, All the five of the needs are secret, but chiefly the hunting lounge and the boats and the hired assassins of the first war. No, I'm thinking on something else altogether. I'm getting that mixed up, aren't I? So it's quite possible, and yeah, I was thinking that they were two different things, but I don't think that's the case. Let's see. There's Matt S saying hi everyone, and hope everyone's well. Hi Matt, thanks very much for joining us. We're not doing too bad here. Life's moving on. Well, saying that the country's gone a bit crazy at the minute. Interesting times over here. But yeah, I hope everyone's doing well, folks, and keeping themselves safe. Let's see, where did we get to? So, of course, the word Ghanima means a spoil of war. So, again, are we playing word games here? Possibly. So, Leto says, you see, beloved aunt, Leto said, we prepare ourselves for today's encounter with your mother. And Alia, the one person in the teeming royal household who harboured not the faintest surprise at adult behaviour from these children, glared from one to the other. Then, hold your tongues, both of you. Alia's bronze hair was pulled back into two golden water rings. Her oval face held a frown. The wide mouth, with its downturned hint of self-indulgence, was held in a tight line. Worry wrinkles fanned the corners of her blue-on-blue eyes. So it's interesting, I suppose, we were talking about, curious to see how she's dressed, but the only thing that we really get, this is Ghanima wondering earlier, how is Alia dressed, if you see what I mean? And all we really get is that her hair's pulled back with two golden water rings, which are, I suppose, a sign of wealth amongst the Fremen, aren't they? But we don't really get anything else there in terms of description. I've warned both of you how to behave today, Alia said. You know the reasons as well as I. And Ghanima, now this is interesting, I think. Ghanima's being a wee bit cheeky here. So we know the reasons, but you may not know ours, Ghanima said. And I thought, this is interesting. She's poking here, if you see what I mean. And probably it's the one thing to say that, oh, we know why you're doing things today, but you've no idea what we're up to, is as good a way of putting somebody off kilter, if you see what I mean, making them worry, making them fret, if you like. It's not everything's going great, Auntie Alia, this kind of thing. and here we here, and I think they're looking for I think the goal here is perhaps a confirmation to remove that idea of doubt that she is indeed an abomination. Matt saying, interesting times call for a new quote. I heard yesterday they tried to bury me. They didn't realize I was a potato. I like to imagine saying it in the voice of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Oh, very good. There's a mutant character from Strontium Dog. I think he's called Spud Murphy, if I recall correctly. And I remember the episode where he got his chips. Dear, oh dear. Yeah. Interesting times. Yes, indeed. I suppose that there's always new words for things. Myself and my wife always like to think that things can and will get worse. It's just But yes, indeed. I wonder what they'll call this period in history. I'll have to have a good euphemistic name for it. I think I would go for the Great Stupid, something like that. So Alia's warned them about their behaviour. You know the reasons why. We'll get the sense that Alia is a bit conspiratorial with these two, I think. It's wanting them to be on the same page as her. And I guess the sense that we get, certainly right off the bat with Ghanima, is that that's not the case. But they're going to make overtures here, if you like, towards Alia in a bit, where they kind of calm her down a bit. But I think definitely they're definitely prodding here. So we know the reasons, but you may not know ours, Ghanima said. Gani, Alia growled. Leto glared at his aunt and said, Today of all days we will not pretend to be simpering infants. No one wants you to simper, Alia said, but we think it unwise for you to provoke dangerous thoughts in my mother. Irulan agrees with me. Who knows what role the Lady Jessica will choose? She is, after all, Bene Gesserit. And I suppose the choice of Lady Jessica's role in this is kind of important. And I also wanted to point out that just like Dune, I suppose, what's the Lady Jessica up to? It's a in the first Dune book, it's a divisive plan set up by the Harkonnens to sow distrust in the Atreides, and the person that they're to distrust is the Lady Jessica, and it causes division within House Atreides. Once again, we're going to see the arrival of Lady Jessica here, and within House Atreides, speculating on her allegiances, etc. That again is going to, cause division. And I suppose it's where are her loyalties really? Has she gone over to the Bene Gesserit? Has she gone back there and should be considered as a Bene Gesserit? And is this why she's coming to see them all? Or is there something else afoot? And is she coming as a concerned, grandmother? Pardon me, and mother to see her children and grandchildren? Is she still Lady Jessica of the Atreides? And I suppose Haraz, in terms of answering that question, Hara has already given us, if she's infernally wise, don't fear her. And like it or not, she was our own Reverend Mother. I know her ways. So there's a suggestion certainly from Hara, with her folksy, devilishly folksy wisdom. I like that. That you should trust, the Lady Jessica, to the twins anyway. But here we get this counter argument. She is, after all, Bene Gesserit. Leto shook his head, wondering. And here's his thoughts. Why does Alia not see what we suspect? Is she too far gone? And he made special note of the subtle gene markers on Alia's face, which betrayed the presence of her maternal grandfather. The Baron Vladimir Harkonnen had not been a pleasant person. That's an understatement. And there we go. This is a kind of, we've got another major character who's deceased. We had a rather poor show in the Denis Villeneuve film, didn't he? The Baron Vladimir Harkonnen as a villain is going to return to this book, and it's, I suppose, it's a bit of an understatement, isn't it? Really, the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen had not been a pleasant person, but so this is what Leto sees in Alia's face. Her grandfather, his presence there has come to the fore within her personality. Of all the personalities that are within other memory, the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen has come to the fore, and he's possibly pulling her strings, or trying to get to that point where he can manipulate her. So this is I suppose this is the nature of the Abomination within the book. And I suppose in a sense this is going to be our villain, if you like, and it's going to create a rather interesting, another Janus aspect out of the Baron Harkonnen and Alia. One male, one female, one living, one dead. This kind of thing, kind of interesting. And I've always said I think Alia is one of my favorite characters within the whole Dune series. A very tragic character, and again, in terms of just how we look at characters like this, it's the same with Paul. It's the way our sympathies go with her, if you see what I mean. And I think certainly within this book, we've seen her, I suppose, as the little child within the first book. We've seen her on the cusp of womanhood with Duncan Idaho, etc., and Dune Messiah, and now we're seeing her basically ruling Arrakis as regent a few years later, and really at the height of this kind of mental breakdown with this other personality taking over, and definitely a sympathetic character, I think, and a very tragic character, and we get to see that develop throughout this book. But whenever Alia meets her end, I always felt quite bad for her. It's just that's not good. And I suppose it has a few links to a few other literary characters like that, I suppose. But there we go. There's a big reveal, I think, with 2 chapters in, and we've got the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen is back and is taking over Alia. And at this observation, Leto felt the vague stirrings of his own disquiet, thinking, my own ancestor too. If we run the problem there, I think it's quite interesting because essentially you could have, if we have the nature of abomination confirmed, etc., then the potential is that you could have Leto, Ghanima, and Alia all succumbing to abomination, and potentially you could have a triumvirate of Atreides scions, if you like, all being controlled by Baron Harkonnens. You could have a triumvirate of Baron Harkonnens here, couldn't you? If it's possible. One of the things I like about the Dune series is you wonder where that could go. But my own ancestor too, so the own fear that this could happen to him is there. And he said, the Lady Jessica was trained to rule. And I've put a wee question, is this a dig at Alia? And Ghanima nodded. Why does she choose this time to come back? And Alia scowled. Then, is it possible she merely wants to see her grandchildren? So I think they're playing devil's advocate here. They're saying the right thing, if you like, to get the right response from Alia. But it seemed Leto's already seen the markers there, I suppose. So on they go with this. This is Ghanima taking the lead, I suppose. Lady Jessica's trained. Oh no, it's not. So my own ancestor too. Lady Jessica's trained to rule. Why did she choose this time to come back? In tandem, then. Alia scowled. Then, is it possible she merely wants to see her grandchildren? Ghanima thought, and this is again a private thought. That's what you hope, my dear aunt, but it's damn well not likely. And I've written, no then. And I was wondering, how would you read this, by the way? Or and again, if you were doing it on stage or in the cinema or whatever, in film, you would probably want it as a soliloquy, a thought process, if you like. It's not a thing to be said out loud, but I was just wondering, how would you read it? And you could read it one of a couple of ways, I thought, but that's what you hope, and you could read it, in a sort of sad, pathetic way, if you like. That's what you hope. Oh, my dear aunt, like that, but it's damn well not likely. Or is there a level of contempt with it? If you see what I mean, that's what you hope, my dear aunt, but it's damn well not likely. And I was kind of wondering about that. Which way would it go? Either seems fine, I think. But I thought there was maybe a little bit of contempt there. Not too sure. At the same time, I think there's love for Alia from the twins as well. Damn well not likely. So Alia's response here is, she cannot rule here, Alia said. She has Caladan. That should be enough. So we talked about giving up authority here. Prior to this, Ghanima spoke placatingly. When our father went into the desert to die, he left you as regent. And she's cut off here. Have you any complaint? Alia demanded. It was a reasonable choice, Leto said, following his sister's lead. You were the one person who knew what it was like to be born as we were born. So they're playing that kind of getting her on the same page. That sort of empathy thing, if you like. Going, you got any problems with that? And they go, no, you're the right choice. We think that we understand each other. And so we get this admission from Alia here. It's rumored that the mother has returned to the sisterhood. Sorry, it's rumored that my mother has returned to the sisterhood, Alia said. And you both know what the Bene Gesserit think about abomination, Leto said. Yes! Alia bit the word off. Once a witch, always a witch. So it is said, Ghanima said. So I just put a whole bunch of notes here. So what basically Alia and Leto are doing is Ghanima and Leto, they're giving Alia assurance, basically, and providing a kind of level of complicity in the idea of abomination. They're kind of pulling her, yanking her chain, pulling her switches, if you like, and it works. It gets this admission, and we first of all, we get this. It's rumored that my mother has returned to the sisterhood. So I've put by who, what's the source, this kind of thing. Where's the rumor come from? And both you know what the Bene Gesserit think about, and it's left unsaid. And so Leto says it out loud, and that yes, Alia bit the word off. It's almost as if she's been dying to say it out loud, to talk about it. And I suppose that the only people that she could also talk about it with would be Ghanima and Leto. But Ghanima kind of hits the nail in the coffin there. Once a witch, always a witch, eh? That kind of thing. So it is said, and again I wrote by who, but the use of the word witch when in relation to the Bene Gesserit, this kind of thing. I've just written down that they're poking further at Alia, stoking the fire here. And Leto's thoughts are, sister, you play a dangerous game, Leto thought, but he followed her lead, saying, our grandmother was a woman of greater simplicity than others of her kind. You share her memories, Alia. Surely you must know what to expect. And that's kind of an interesting one as well, because it's kind of to make Alia think less of Jessica, if you like, to deliberately underestimate her. And Alia Alia takes slight at the word, I suppose, simplicity. Simplicity, Alia said, shaking her head, looking around at the thronged passage, then back to the twins. If my mother were less complex, neither of you would be here, nor I. I would have been her firstborn, and none of this. A shrug, half shudder, moved her shoulders. I warn you too, be very careful what you do today. Alia looked up. Here comes my guard. And you still don't think it's safe for us to accompany you to the spaceport? Leto asked. Wait here, Alia said. I'll bring her back. Leto exchanged a look with his sister and said, You've told us you've told us many times that the memories we hold from those who've passed before us lack a certain usefulness until we've experienced enough with our own flesh to make them reality. My sister and I believe this. We anticipate dangerous changes with the arrival of our grandmother. And Alia's response here is, Don't stop believing that, Alia said. She turned away to be enclosed by her guards and then moved swiftly down the passage towards the state entrance where ornithopters awaited them. So that's exit Alia there, if you like. And so it very much strikes me as the two of them there kind of gang up on Alia. Know exactly which buttons to push, if you like. I suppose trying to see where her thinking is. That we've got the word abomination, and almost this emphatic yes response by. But again, they're using the negative, this kind of thing. So trying to reinforce his belief that their mother has returned to the sisterhood to see how she would think with those set of responses. But we're told that it's rumored, and we're going. I suppose Alia has her, pardon me, intelligence network, but we're not, again, things that are said without clarity, and even Ghanima kind of does it, once a witch, always a witch, so it's said, this kind of thing. Nods as good as a wink to a blind man. It's a bit like that, but it seems very much a kind of rhetorical kind of manipulation. And I think Alia, in terms of the information that Alia gives out here, what she feeds them, what they learn. And again, Leto's thinking that Ganem is playing a dangerous game here, but on she goes with it. It's an exchange that I think the twins come out of it with a lot more information, I think, and suspicion about their Aunt Alia. But we anticipate dangerous changes. Oh, don't stop believing that. So they're throwing out the bait and seeing how Alia responds to it. And Alia's confirmations, if you like, let them know how she's thinking. So off she goes. Ghanima wiped a tear from her right eye. Water for the dead, Leto whispered, taking his sister's arm. Ghanima drew in a deep, sighing breath, thinking of how she had observed her aunt using the way she knew best from her own accumulation of ancestral experiences. Spice trance did it? She asked, knowing what Leto would say. Do you have a better suggestion? And again, this is reiterating what the thoughts that sort of Gurney Halleck, sorry, not Gurney Halleck, I apologise, that Stilgar had on these ideas in the previous chapter. Spice Trance did it, she asked, knowing what Leto would say. Do you have any better suggestions? Excuse me, for the sake of argument, why didn't our father or even our grandmothers succumb? And this is the reason, I suppose. It's to do with secure personalities. He studied her for a moment, and then, you know the answer as well as I do. They had secure personalities by the time they came to Arrakis. The Spice Trance, well, he shrugged, they weren't born into this world already possessed of their ancestors. Alia, though, why didn't she believe the Bene Gesserit warnings? Ghanima chewed her lower lip. Alia had the same information to draw upon that we do. They already were calling her Abomination, Leto said. Don't you find it tempting to find out if you're stronger than all of those? No, I don't. Ghanima looked away from her brother's probing stare, shuddered. She had only to consult her genetic memories, and the Sisterhood's warning took on vivid shape. The preborn observably tended to become adults of nasty habits. Euphemism, I'll say euphemism there. Nasty habits. And the likely cause, again, she shuddered. So once again, we're not told what dire warnings take place within genetic memory. The tendency of the preborn to become adults of nasty habits is the way it's put, and the likely cause, and she shuddered. And again, we're not told, Pity we don't have a few preborn in our ancestry, Leto said. And again, for anybody who's interested, not read or familiar with Samuel Butler's Erewhon, the whole birthing contracts of the unborn, etc., that kind of thing. A lot of these ideas of the preborn come from that, but it's a good read. It's very funny. But yeah, how come there's no preborn in their genetic memory? And of course, the response here is from Ghanima is, well, perhaps we do. Perhaps there are a few there. Again, would you have time to go through all the personalities in other memory? Perhaps we do. The question I wrote next to that is, well, who? Leto says, but yes, the old unanswered question. Do we really have open access to every ancestor's file of experiences? And I've written next to that, that's a good question. I think it's one that we've had a good argument or two or discussion about over the years. Goodness, it's years now, isn't it? But who would be there? And having people in your memory who are actually still alive, that's kind of interesting. The culture's got a wee bit of that, I think, with the neural laces, different, uploading your personality, this kind of thing. I suppose it's a well-investigated topic these days. Cynthia's saying, was Lady Jessica trained to rule? From Dune, she was trained to produce a Kwisatz Haderach. Paul was trained to rule, as was Alia. More projection here from Alia. Could be. I thought that was a wee bit of a dig. The Lady Jessica was trained to rule. Why does she choose this time to come back? And I think, again, they're poking at her there in that sense that, yeah, she's trained to rule, but you're not. This kind of thing. Maybe she would come over and take over. And at the same time, they reinforce that idea that she might be coming to take over, but then they immediately switch to her father's decision that it was a reasonable choice to put you in charge. Where it's they really are messing with her quite badly there, I think. I would imagine that trained to rule in that sense is the different aspects of the Atreides house, but she is the house secretary, isn't she? In the old-fashioned sense of the word, she runs the household pretty much. The day-to-day running of a major house. So I don't know. I'd say there's plenty of it in the various skills that the Bene Gesserit would have, but I would imagine that they would know how to run a major house and look after its finances and stuff like that. I'd hope so. I was just just thinking about the other day about the ultimate response to the voice is just earplugs. Almost all of the interesting powers and abilities in these books have ridiculously simple foils, if you like. Pardon me. Excuse me. But I got very much the sense that Alia was badly manipulated here. Where are we? Oh. So yeah, what's the difference? How come we haven't become Abomination? Why didn't it affect these other people? The answer is because they have secure personalities, that they've had enough time to grow, to develop their own personality and their own sense of self, that by the time they encounter the multitude, I suppose that they have enough self-confidence, self-will, if you like, self-determination to be able to handle a mob of memory ancestors. Pardon me. But yeah, this gets Ghanima quite upset, doesn't it? Do you want to find out if we're stronger, that we can beat all this? No, I don't. And she looked away from her brother's probing stare and shuddered. She had only to consult her genetic memories, and the sisterhood's warnings took on vivid shape. And again, not for them maybe, but not for us. The preborn observantly tended to become adults of nasty habits, and the likely cause, again, she shuddered. Pity we don't have a few preborn in our ancestry. Perhaps we do. Oh yes, and there we go. So this is a big question about, I suppose, how does all that work? The old unanswered question: do we really have open access to every ancestor's file of experiences? And if that ultimately is the goal of the Bene Gesserit, etc., in the Kwisatz Haderach, then that's a pretty handy thing to have, I suppose, isn't it? But it's got all the bad people as well, and all the bad, dangerous to know people. So, from his own inner turmoil, Leto knew that how this conversation must be disturbing his sister. They considered this question many times, always without conclusion. He said, "We must delay and delay and delay every time she urges the trance upon us. Extreme caution with a spice overdose, that's our best course." An overdose would have to be pretty large, Ghanima said. Our tolerance is probably high, he agreed. Look how much Alia requires. Sorry. So the simple fact is, I think, from this, that what we can glean from this is that Alia is at some point going to try and force the spice trance onto Leto and Ghanima, the overdose. So I suppose that so that they can be in the same boat as her, if you like. That's really it. That she'll want them there for those reasons, I think. And so their tactics in terms of dealing with the ant is that they're not going to do this. They're going to keep putting it off, delay this as much as possible, and that whenever it comes to taking a spice overdose, that they should exhibit extreme caution with that. And that's our best course at this point. This is the two of them, and this is the best way that they think to proceed. We learned from Ghanima that an overdose is going to have to be a big overdose for these two, because they have very strong tolerance. And already, I suppose, that look how much Alia required would suggest that, again, Alia's tolerance is extremely high to melange. And of course, we've seen her overdose already in Dune Messiah, to the point where it nearly killed her. And Ghanima, again here, I suppose, I pity her, Ghanima said. The lure of it must have been subtle and insidious, creeping up on her until she's a victim. Yes, Leto said. Abomination. We could be wrong. True. I always wonder, Ghanima mused, if the next ancestral memory I seek will be the one which the past is no further away than your pillow, Leto said. We must make the opportunity to discuss this with our grandmother. So her memory within me urges, Leto said. Ghanima met his gaze then. Too much knowledge never makes for simple decisions. Very true. And we've hit the end of chapter 2. And quite an interesting little bit. Again, they're making the decision to consult with Lady Jessica based on her personality within their own memory. And I suppose that suggestion is that, whatever we think about Lady Jessica, the suggestion is that she's probably going to be a good guy within this, if you like, that she's probably going to be on their side. So there's lots of little bits of information dropped there. All sorts of things that I'm really pushing the plot forward a bit. Something's wrong with Alia. Lady Jessica's on her way. Alia could well be an abomination, and we think that the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen has taken over her. And I suppose from the threat to the threat to the twins is that Alia is going to try and force this spice orgy upon them, to take the overdose of spice, if you like, and spice trance, sorry, and that it's potentially dangerous for them, making them abominations. They're quite young yet, etc. So we've got the basis of a plot against them from within the House Atreides, and I suppose the nature of giving up power, who's got authority, etc., etc. Straight off, I suppose, again, we've got Children of Dune kicking in. It's more of a buildings roman again, a coming of age novel, and we get the sense of adventure building up, the sense of danger building up. Alia's kind of almost become the Wicked Witch, kind of looking in her mirror, this kind of thing, type villain. And there's almost a sense of Hansel and Gretel, if you like, about Leto and Ghanima in a way. Ladies, behave. Let's just have a wee look. I don't think it changes the meaning. My text says, do we really have open access to every ancestor's total file of experience? Addition of the word total. Thank you. Well, there was me saying maybe we've got through. Let's have a look. That's an interesting question. Bear with me a wee second, just to figure out where that is. There it is. That's note 71. It's possibly me. Do we really have open access to every ancestor's file of experiences? Do we really have open access to every ancestor's total file of experience? That's a word missing for me. I'm going to take your something. I'm going to write that in. There you go. Through that one chapter without a mistake. Let me see. Total file. Yeah, it's missing in my chapter. Do we really have open access? All right. Do we really have open access to every ancestor's file of experiences, every ancestor's total file? And you've got experience. Then I've got every ancestor's file of experiences. Oh, for goodness sake. Let's see, alternative to every. I'm going to write this in here. Every ancestor's. Yeah. Total file of experience, question mark. Yeah, what I've got, yeah, that's different, isn't it? I've got, do we really have open access to every ancestor's file of experiences? Oops, I have experiences. That's okay, of total file of experiences. Yeah, thank you. That's good to be thorough. There we go. Alt. Let me get a highlighter for that. Thank you very much, Cynthia. There you go. There's something. I was actually feeling quite chuffed that we got through I got through a chapter without finding a mistake. And there you go. It's a missing word. But thank you anyway. Not to worry about it. I'm sure. Past worrying about such things at this point. There we go. It's quite a fast wee chapter to sort of get through in terms of its dialogue heavy, but quite a lot of reveal there. Also, we've got Ghanima's little tear for Alia, which is, I think, quite sad, and is again an indicating, as foreshadowing. She's giving moisture, water for the dead, as Leto puts it, taking his sister in arms. She doesn't deny it, etc. And again, we can see that these two can see into other memory. What about the future as well? This kind of thing. But yes, their approach to other memory and the ancestors seems to be a lot more complete than any character that we've seen so far. And an interesting wee chapter. We've got riddles, we've got games. Funny little games of the game of finery, the Fremen challenge game, this kind of thing. There's a lot of wordplay going on, and I suppose almost like a kind of rhetorical manipulation and of Alia by these two, and the way they speak to her, they get her to reveal what they need her to reveal, I suppose. So as much as Ghanima expresses the doubts, it's her who's very much going forward and acting upon them, I think, to find out that whether this is true or not. And she still expresses doubts at the end, but I think it's part of how they work together. If you see, we could be wrong, true, this kind of thing. And is wondering about the next ancestral reading that I seek. Will that be the one that takes me over, if you like? That's kind of where that's going. But the past is no further away than your pillow. Sleep, I think, if you like, in dreams. And so they have to make they're seeking out wisdom, I think, at the end of this chapter, is to seek out and discuss the matter with their grandmother. So her memory within me urges. So she's already getting advice. They're already getting advice from their grandmother from within, if you like. And I think just the last thing, too much knowledge never makes for simple decisions. I totally agree. Too much choice is always a bad thing, I think. But there we go. We've learned a little bit about the twins, about the nature of some of their abilities, what's going on with Alia, and we've seemed to have got the return of the Baron Harkonnen folks. And the mystery of Abomination and what's going on there, how that works, etc. It's good to get back to Children of Dune. Actually, I'm just boyhood of a god emperor, if you like, and his sister. It's good fun to read. I'm starting to enjoy it already. It's been a while, and as the books go, I've always enjoyed Children of Dune. I thought it was a good adventure story. And I'm going to have to figure out have to do a wee bit of. We've had a wee bit of a crazy time here with just things. We're trying to get a few things moved around the house, and our car totally broke down a couple of days ago. So we've been on the sort of hop. And once again, apologies for not being able to get on properly last night. We got wiped out completely. So it's really good to see you all here tonight. Now just see based on what. Based on what we've learned about the concerns of Abomination that occupy the twins, Stilgar's fears in the earlier chapter are justified. This is his own internal folk wisdom. Yeah, you'd imagine that something that Stilgar's kind of ideas, etc., are going to go along similar roads to Haraz as well, with her infernal folk wisdom, if you see what I mean. And it's interesting that the fears that Stilgar's thinking about in relation to the twins, then as we move into this next chapter, that they actually occupy the twins' minds themselves, And they're a wee bit tricky to get a handle on, I think, the twins at the start. I got the sense that kind of Leto was a bit more assertive, but Ghanima is definitely more manipulative, I think, and tends to be sort of leading the way there. It's interesting. We'll see maybe how that turns around within the book. But at the minute, as a set of twins that work together, I think they're two good characters so far. And it's a wee bit hard to forget that they're 9 years of age sometimes, especially if you watch the miniseries. kind of where you have, I suppose they're kind of young adult actors on this. Yeah, a very young James McAvoy, isn't it, playing the God Emperor? But yeah, there we go. So listen, folks, I'll say that I'll do. That's been a quick one, and I'm going to take it as they go. So it's just coming up to 10:30. So thank you all very much for joining me. Hopefully we'll be on Thursday at 9 o'clock as usual. All things, if all things go well. And so we've got a new microphone here that we're going to try out today. I was trying out a new T-shirt as well. There we go. I got an ABC Warriors T-shirt. So there we go. And Cynthia saying thanks as always. Thank you very much, Cynthia, for your contribution, all that info on the bibliographical side of things. And I said if anybody ever wants to chat with me or anything like that, fire us a wee email. So we're just kind of getting up and running with this book club, and I'm still trying to get a few wee things organized. I did have a couple of other wee things to kind of read out, but sometimes you kind of want to keep them for certain sections in the book. I think the other thing that I've been saying just was that I've been reading a little bit of Herodotus' histories recently. Just where am I at? I don't know if I'm about page 72 or something like that. And enjoying it thoroughly. It's been a long time since I've looked at it, but just within the very first few pages of this book, the amount of oracles that are in it and the nature and importance of those oracles within ancient Greece is very obvious. So I was kind of going, having a wee look at different, even oracles being put to the test, So we'll try and bring some other stuff in. But in the meantime, I will say goodnight, folks. Pardon me, because I've been doing an awful lot of running about and I'm a bit pooped. But hopefully everything went well tonight. And as I said, we'll get on with chapter 3 on Thursday at 9 p.m. GMT +1. I will see you then. So thanks very much. All the very best, and take care of yourselves. And good night. Bye bye.